This is Bumper to Bumper, the car show. Drive in anxious and cruise out confident. With the best automotive information for your vehicle. And now your hosts, Matt Allen and Dave Riccio.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bumper Radio. I am Dave Riccio, here along with Matt Allen, and together we are your KTAR car guys, heard here every Saturday from 11 to noon. At Bumper to Bumper Radio, we are helping you, the motoring public, have a better overall car experience. If you got car questions, we've got answers, so we encourage you to give us a call at 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. And if you're the shy type, you can get a hold of us at 411-923. And today on the Bumper to Bumper Roadmap, a little bit of fact or fiction, one from the past, see if Matt remembers the right answer. We got open phones, of course, and taking your text. In catastrophic failures, I don't know about you, Matt, but this is the time of year where my shop parking lot has tow trucks showing up because things are breaking, and people don't realize that our business in June, July, is at a different pace than it is in October or March.
Yeah, I could go with that.
It gets real busy because the torture of the 110-degree days is not easy on the car.
We always say that we're busier in the summer, but I don't think we're any busier. If you go back and look at the reports, it's usually the same number of cars, and maybe if you want to measure by dollar volume, it's about the same amount. But, man, the activity level sure picks up in the shop. You're right. Tow trucks are coming. People are hot, and they're stressed out. And a lot of these people that we see, you know who I never see hot and stressed out? My regular customer that we see without question every 4 months.
Because they just come and see you. It's not reactive auto repair, it's proactive auto repair.
Exactly. So when we're hot and we're sweaty and when we're frustrated, it's usually because we're on the side of the road or we just got out of the tow truck and we're late for where we wanted to be. And it could be a catastrophic failure or it could be something simple. But from a catastrophic standpoint, there's a lot of these things when now if you sit someone down and man, you feel bad doing it sometimes. And if I was the parent or whatever, I don't want to just beat you up and tell you, this is your fault. You could have avoided this. Remember the light we told you about. It's not too uncommon for someone to come in and they say, gosh, the car just quit running on the freeway. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about that. Well, it was just making this loud noise for like the last 17 miles. and so you can avoid these things. We've got to be in tune with the smell. I mean, our car is talking to us. You got to listen.
Oh, the sweet smell is not good this time of year. Not good at all.
We got lights. I mean, these are things that we need to pay attention to and be in tune with, and we can avoid them. Let's go through some of them.
Let's talk about lights, for instance. People are familiar with that little yellow light that looks like an engine, or maybe they don't know that looks like an engine, but that's supposed to be the outline of an engine. But that thing, I get cars come in all the time, and that thing is on. And I ask the people, I say, your check engine light is on. Oh, yeah, it's just some emissions thing. Just some emissions thing. And they just, they don't worry about it. I say, hey, your car.
And they have a Greenpeace sticker on the back, too.
I've seen black tape over that check engine light. People are so used to ignoring that light. And it is one of those lights, you can't ignore it forever. Something needs to be done. It's telling you there is trouble on the horizon or something needs to be addressed. The problem with that light is it does not discriminate. It comes on for 263 different reasons. And if you think it's on for just emissions, what if it came on for this and that and the other, and you still think it's just for emissions? So I had a car the other day where the lady, I'm driving it with her on the freeway, and I'm driving and I'm going, catalytic converter's plugged up. I'm not telling her this, but this is what I'm thinking in my mind.
You're diagnosing in your brain.
In my brain, what's going on? I can't get this engine to rub past 4,000 RPMs. I mean, it's plugged up. It's like breathing through a coffee straw. This thing is not working. And I said, why is the check engine light on? She said, oh, it's just a catalytic converter thing. I don't need to fix that. And I'm thinking, the catalytic converter's plugged up. Dave, I think it'd be like
pooping through a coffee straw.
It is true. It is true, and I thought about that when I said that. But coffee straw, either way, in or out, not good.
I just had to try and throw you off a little bit. But the check engine light,
it's not an emergency light.
Exactly.
If it's flashing, sometimes they flash. That's different. That's a different story. You got a pretty significant misfire.
And I'm talking catastrophic and expensive, and sometimes they're one and the same, and sometimes they're not. The check engine light could be an expensive repair, like your catalytic converter issue, may or may not leave you broken down. I think most of the time a check engine light's not going to break it down. Check engine light's bad when it's flashing because that means, hey, there's something wrong.
It's really unhappy.
Really what it means is it's misfiring, and we don't want to ruin that expensive converter. So that's one of the fail-safes there. But what are the light? It's the red light. Yellow is caution. Green is go. We don't see very many green lights on the dash. Maybe the turn signal.
Well, there's a reason that brake light is yellow. That the brake light that you see come on the dash. It's not yellow. It's red. I mean, it's really important to have brakes.
Or the low oil pressure light switch is red because red is bad for no oil pressure. Or the other one that red light that looked kind of like a radiator or some waves with a flag in it like a buoy. I mean, it was on for like 30 minutes and then it just. That's one of the ones that we're going to see this time of year that we can't ignore. That red light on the dash means the car is hot. This thing is one of those red lights, but the one I'm talking about, the radar. The car is hot. It's outside of its comfort zone. It's not operating in the range of temperature that it wants to be. It's out of that range.
And that's when it gets expensive if you ignore it. I mean, you can take. Let's just say, for instance, radiator cracked, tank cracked, and you lost coolant, and now it's overheating. Okay, a radiator repair in itself it's not comfortably expensive. $500, right? But it's not $2,000 if you ignore it. It could be $2,000. It could be $2,500. I don't know what kind of car you drive. Some cars are even more expensive than that if you ignore that red light. So we want to avoid that situation.
Yeah, I mean, we could burn up a head gasket. We could burn up. I mean, you could really ruin an engine. You could a hot situation.
I have two of them in my
bearings. You can make it fix. You can do a catastrophic failure that's fixable, which we can fix that patient, that module, that engine that's still in the car. And then you have the catastrophic failure where you just destroy the thing. We can't. But I can tell you one thing. I do it sometimes. I might walk out to the car to check on something after the customer's already left. Maybe I want to go see what size the engine is and get some information into the computer system in advance for the technician. Or maybe you go out to the customer to see something that they're talking about. And it happens a lot. I'll walk up and you can just know. It's like the car that you hear next to you at the stoplight. You know it's got brakes and it's grinding and
it's
whatever.
Actually a curse when you're in the automotive business.
Right. But what I'm saying is that smell, that's just something that we know, and I bet the consumers, they know it, but they don't know what it is. They know it's something different, and that's what you've got to be into, because I guarantee you that catastrophic radiator failure that resulted in a blown head gasket, that probably started with a little bit of a whiff of coolant, and that coolant is kind of like hot, maybe maple syrup burnt a little bit. It's got something sweet smell to it, but you can't really identify it. That's when you don't have to know what it is to say something's not normal, I guess, right?
I had a car come to my shop the other day, and we put a clutch in it. And so we put a clutch in it. That worked out. We go on 3 different test drives, 3 different technicians, and it's backing out of the first bay, the last bay they checked it out, and it goes by, and I go, it's got a coolant leak. And, so I asked the technician, I said, it's got a coolant leak. He said, yeah, there's a little bit of green crust, starting to show up around the radiator, and I noted it, and we'll talk to the customer about it. But, you can pick it up just by smelling it.
But that's funny. Your technicians are probably like some of mine. They don't like me because they're done with the car, and I walk by, and I'm like, did you check? What do you mean? It's like, hey, man,
we have magic vision and magic senses. We know when things are going. Or that goes by, you're like, hey, did we talk to them about the valve cover leaking? How do you know the valve cover's leaking? Because I can smell it burning on the manifold.
Yeah, there's some sort of oil leak. I mean, if you go to a restaurant and it smells like rotten food, you're probably not going to want to eat there. I mean, when you open your refrigerator, you may not know that's a rotten ham in there or whatever, but you know something's not right. So same thing with your car.
If your car stinks, take it to the shop.
It's talking to you. It can't come out and say, Sally or Frank or Bob, don't abuse me. I need some help. It's talking to you by putting out an odor, by turning on a light.
Something stink. We got to do something about something.
Yeah.
But back to the lights, and I get this. When I have 2, I call them dead soldiers in my parking lot right now. 2 people that burned up the engine because they overheated it, and both had cracked radiator tanks. And it's always the same story. Well, I saw the light come on, and went a few more exits, before I finally got off the road. And a few more exits is enough exits to make it happen. So you just, get yourself to a safe place. That's first and foremost. You're worth more than a $2,000 repair. But, you don't want to push it. Don't say, I can probably, H does not stand for hurry. It doesn't stand for hurry.
It's hot. It's burning down here. Now, there's some lights you can ignore, and maybe you should ask your mechanic which light you can ignore. You could probably, I'm not going to tell somebody this in Santa Fe or someone in Seattle. Could you ignore your traction control light? Probably, for a little while.
It's not the end of the world.
But that's the whole thing, is when you start ignoring things, then all of a sudden you've got this accumulation of all this stuff. Then it's the door ding you ignored, and it's the motor mount we talked about last week that you ignored, and then it's whatever. Now you have this jalopy. But I know one thing you can't ignore in the summertime here is your battery.
Well, we did talk about tow trucks and catastrophic failures, but how many of those tow trucks that show up to your shop are dead batteries?
Yeah.
And you were telling me about the lady in your shop the other day, and she had to get a jump to get to your shop, and you checked it out, and you said, "Hey, the battery's bad," and she said, "It's only 4 years old."
It's only 4 years old, and you may not know it, but the average battery in Arizona, at least your original equipment battery, they last about 30 months, and you can't ignore this. So it's one thing you want to get in. You want to get checked out in interstate batteries. They're a battery that is carried in a lot of the bumper-to-bumper radio shops. You ask any mechanic at any shop anywhere in the United States what brand of battery is a good battery, and the first thing that's going to come to mind is interstate batteries. It's the number one replacement brand.
Every shop I've ever worked at carried interstate, and not all batteries are created equal. So the things last, it's a battery, you may be getting a battery at every 30 months, but you want a good battery so you're not getting one at 6 months. How many times have you seen a car with a cheap battery gone at 6 months?
True. And a lot. And the other thing, too, is when you have your battery replaced, maybe under warranty at the dealer, maybe that's not the best thing to do. Their only obligation is to get you to 3 years at 36,000 miles. And so get a good battery. Check out interstatebatteries.com, and you can find them at bumpertobumperradio.com as well.
So when we come back, we're taking your phone calls at 602-277-5827. You're listening to Matt and Dave, your KTR car guys, on Bumper to Bumper Radio.